The Modern Warfare Alpha has been out for a while now on PS4, and I thought I'd share my first impressions on it now that I've got a few hours under my belt. So far I've played on 4 of the 5 maps, and by the time of uploading this video the 5th map, Stacked, should be playable along with a new game mode called Pickup. The only difference is that the loadouts are spread around the map and you'll need to pick them up, or you can just play with the pistol you spawn in with. Anyways, about my first impressions, so let's start off with graphics. From the minute you start playing, it's clear to see that the new engine has greatly improved the graphics when you compare it to previous COD titles. The sheer amount of detail on the weapons, maps and characters all show that. But as a Battlefield player who's constantly fed maps that seem to prioritize visuals, I wouldn't say I was blown away by it or overly impressed. Having said that, the balance between gameplay and visuals seemed to be just about right. I'd say it's the sweet spot. Also, do keep in mind that this is on console after all, and the PC version is where the new engine will be able to showcase its full potential. When it comes to settings, I expected the bare minimum standards from a AAA title, such as a FOV slider or just being able to set the ADS sensitivity, but unfortunately none of those are in the game, and in fact Activision just confirmed that the FOV slider won't be coming to the console version at all. No explanation was given, but my best guess would be that it's related to performance issues. So like any other COD, you're stuck with an ADS sensitivity that's about 50% of your hipfire sensitivity and a narrow FOV. To me, that's been one of the main reasons why I never really played any of the previous COD titles. I think the vast amount of settings in Battlefield titles have spoiled me to a point where I can't really do without them anymore. However, the PC version does seem to be getting some of those highly requested features. And when you combine that with cross-platform play, the PC version looks to be an attractive option for controller players who can afford to do so. You'll get more frames, better graphics and the option to further personalize your settings while being able to play in controller-only servers. That's a no-brainer for me, but I'll wait for further details on the PC build first. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about gameplay and gunplay. The weapons I've used so far all seem to be balanced and feel unique. By that I mean not one single SMG feels like the other, and I haven't run into any overpowered or underpowered weapons, and that even goes for pistols. As per usual, different body multipliers are used to reward the more accurate players, and the time to kill feels really fast. If you compare it to Battlefield 5, Modern Warfare's TTK is a tad bit faster, I would say. For example, here I'm using the Odin, a DMR with a suppressor and a magnified scope. Definitely one of the more satisfying guns to use in the alpha, and as you can tell it takes 2 body shots or 1 headshot to finish off an opponent. So all weapons are lethal and pack a punch, but it's hard to judge how the weapons will fare on larger maps purely based on 2v2 close quarter engagements. For all I know, these weapons could have a huge damage drop off over distance, or recoil becomes more of a factor. We'll just have to wait and see when the beta comes out and we get to test one of those larger maps. Speaking of recoil, I personally expected a lot more recoil on the weapons, but there isn't much at all. If you play Battlefield and are comfortable with the way the recoil works in that game, then you've got nothing to worry about. Most of what you're seeing is just camera shake and a lot of weapon kick. A bit too much in my opinion, and it could be toned down a bit. I don't think there's a predictable recoil pattern as well, but either way, there's no need to burst an assault rifle or pace your shots with an SLR. Just hold down the trigger and you're good to go, and that's exactly what I've been doing with great success. However, that doesn't seem to be the case on PC though, as both platforms are balanced differently. So if you're a PC player that's looking forward to taking advantage of cross-platform play, you might want to reconsider. Player movement does feel a bit on the slower side for a Call of Duty game, and the loadout you pick impacts your overall mobility. For example, heavy LMGs slow you down a bit, whereas an SMG or a pistol doesn't as much. Another thing I've noticed is that there seems to be a long and substantial delay between sprinting and shooting. Again, this could be directly linked to the loadout you're carrying, but for now the run and gun playstyle that COD is known for is not as effective as it used to be. Some of you guys may like that and some of you guys won't. I just hope that with the right attachments you can move around a bit more freely. Talking about movement, they've added a super sprint feature. To activate it, you'll need to double tap the sprint button, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of it. Performing the action feels really clunky, and the sprint only lasts for a few strides. The cooldown is long as well, plus more importantly, it reduces your controller lifespan down to about 2 weeks, I'd say. A fixed sprint speed that's in between the two is what I would prefer, but I wouldn't consider that to be a deal breaker. Another feature that I wasn't aware of until I got my hands on the game is that you can now reload your gun while aiming down sight. As far as I know, all weapons have this feature without the need of a specific attachment. A really handy feature that gives players the option to keep track of their opponents and avoid the long ADS times. One of the few things I'm not fond of is the feedback you receive when taking damage. Your screen turns grey for several seconds and the audio is completely suppressed. The extent of the suppression feels far too long, and you can only imagine what it would be like in a 50v50 match where you may potentially take damage every few seconds. A light red tint that disappears in a matter of a few seconds would be more fitting, just like any of the previous Call of Duty titles. When it comes to audio, each weapon sounds authentic and unique, but footsteps are currently non-existent. That's quite worrying for me, considering that we're playing on a quiet 2v2 map that has minimal external noises that would influence or mask the sound of footsteps. Overall, I think the core gameplay is solid, and with a few tweaks here and there, you'll have a game that caters to all FPS players from Battlefield to Rainbow Six Siege. The weapons have been the highlight for me so far. Just being able to use a suppressed M13 is a satisfying experience, and that feeling of satisfaction just draws you back in wanting more. I'm definitely looking forward to trying out the larger game modes like 20v20 and 50v50, as those appeal to me the most. The gunsmith is another thing I'm dying to try out as well, and perhaps you may see more Modern Warfare videos from me in the future. If you played the alpha, let me know what you think of the game in the comments down below. I'm going to leave you guys with a bit more raw gameplay. Don't forget to leave a rating, and I'll see you later. Take care.
No mistakes. This round. Reloading. Maintain pressure. Next round we crush them. Stun! Stay focused, no mistakes. This round is ours. Die for their mission, so be it. Flash out! That's the way. On to the next round. that came from.